Well, the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence kicked off on November 25th, a global campaign to call for the prevention and elimination of violence against women and girls. United Nations data shows that over the course of their lives, 1 in 3 women will face some form of gender-based violence. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, women represent about 51% of the population, and gender inequalities are particularly observed in economic, political, social, and cultural settings. For more insight, I spoke to Dr. Eugene Kongnyuy, the UN Population Fund representative in the DRC.
Gender-based violence cuts across both the rural area and the urban area. It cuts across also levels of education, although it is more common in women who are less educated. But it cuts across because it is grounded on the tradition, on non-social norms that tend to affect everyone.
In analysis, UNFPA found that, among other things, traditional and religious practices have some negative impact on gender equality in the DRC. How so?
Tradition is good. There are forms of tradition that actually protect people, especially vulnerable women and girls. But there are other forms of tradition that also exposes them and increases the risk of gender-based violence. We are working with religious and traditional leaders to see how we can put an end to them.
And speaking of that, you have initiated the Lumbumbashi Forum on tradition and religion to put an end to gender-based violence in the DRC. Talk to us about this initiative. What does it entail?
The objective of the forum was to bring together traditional and religious leaders to reflect, to brainstorm on the strategies that they can put in place in order to address gender-based violence. Because it is grounded in tradition, we look at gender-based violence in the development setting, not just humanitarian sector. The second thing is that it was the first time that we brought together both religious and traditional leaders to sit together on one table from all corners of the country and try to find out what they can put in place in order to address gender-based violence. And the third thing that makes it particularly important is that we know that religious and traditional leaders do not work alone. They work in an ecosystem. So we also brought the other players to sit with them on the table, such as civil society, women association, the young people, the government, the donors, the UN agencies, to sit together and listen to them and support them.
When we think about tradition and culture, it's so entrenched into people's habit. How do you convince them, and how much of an impact are they willing or able to make when it comes to changing traditions?
One thing that actually also surprised us is that most of them, if not all of them, are actually very progressive. They want to preserve the good tradition, but they're open to actually put an end to the harmful practices. So they were quite excited to come and see how they can work together. So much so that after the conference, they decided to sit together and actually start brainstorming that for the first time, they're able to sit and discuss some of the common issues that face them.
So what transpired from the forum, and what are the next steps?
The religious and traditional leaders drafted the Lumbumbashi Declaration to end gender-based violence, and all of them, they signed the declaration. The second thing that happened is that they developed their action plan, concrete actions that they're going to take in order to ensure that their declaration is implemented.
Rape as a weapon of war. What is your take, and what is UNFPA doing on that front?
Gender-based violence as a weapon of war still happens. And it happens in the context of humanitarian crisis, in the context of armed conflict. And actually, I'm happy to say that the government is aware of this. And last year, the president of the Democratic Republic of Congo created a national fund for the reparation of conflict-related gender-based violence, and also created a national commission for transitional justice to bring justice to the victims of conflict-related gender-based violence.
We've also seen that during COVID-19, gender-based violence has increased in some parts of the world, including in some parts of Africa. What can you tell us in terms of the experience in DRC?
The impact, given the fact that the lockdown was not that much serious in DRC as in some other countries, the impact wasn't that much, but it affected and had an impact in the terms of the number of cases that we are seeing. There is a database, but the database just shows the tip of the iceberg, because there are many cases of gender-based violence that do not actually come forward because women, they face stigma, they fear retaliation. So many of the cases, we cannot actually get them.
What do women do to protect themselves?
First of all, to talk about women protecting themselves, men need to also protect the women. They have a strong role to play, because that is why UNFPA engaged boys and men in the process, because they are the cause and the solution of gender-based violence. We have been working with women, but working with women without getting men involved won't provide a solution that is comprehensive, that we can finally say we have put an end to gender-based violence.
That was Dr. Eugene Kongnyuy, UN Population Fund representative in the DRC. And that's our health report for today. To stay in touch, find me on Twitter at Linord Moudou. Benson?
Oh, that's great reporting.
Thank you.
And just before we conclude this show, as a house doctor, World Cup is going on, and there have been questions about the health impact, especially among the fans of the game. What would you say? How does it affect people?
Let me just say I'm not a house doctor. I'm your house doctor. But listen, it's